Picture it. You're not 7 feet tall. You can't flip a warthog with your pinky. You don't have a magic beeping shield bar that forgives every bad decision that you make. You're just some poor bastard in a bucket helmet, lost in the ruins of New Mombasa. The rain is dripping down your visor, and your squad is missing. And to make matters worse, the city is burning. And the only thing louder than the rain-soaked jazz soundtrack is your own heartbeat. Welcome to Halo 3 ODST. Hey, and welcome back to another Thursday Checkpoint Extra edition of the Average Joe Nerdcast. I'm Nate, your resident nerd, Natepedia if you're my wife, and a man who has devoted an absolutely irresponsible amount of brain ROM to a franchise about sad space monks and the 7-foot murder tanks who ruin their plans. And you know, we've come a long way since that very first Halo Combat Evolved deep dive. Something like 25 episodes later, we've gone all over the map too. Nostalgia trips through cartoons, horror blocks, moral panics, conspiracies, Super Sentai, and all the weird and wonderful stuff that turned an entire generation into the nerds we are. Way back in the Halo 3 episode, I said we'd come back around and wrap the Bungie years. I made you a promise, and I'm a man of my word. That time is right now. Today, we're dropping feet first into one of the weirdest and most beautiful turns Halo ever took. This is the trenchcoat cousin of the main trilogy. The one who shows up to the family reunion in a rumpled suit, smells like rain and coffee, and just quietly says, "Yeah, I've seen some shit." ODST is Halo without the demigod. No Master Chief, no galaxy-saving closing argument. Just a city at night, a squad of regular soldiers, and one very tired rookie who did not sign up to be the protagonist of anything. And to really appreciate Halo 3 ODST, we gotta rewind a bit. Drop back into 2007. The Xbox 360 is king. Halo 3 has just dropped. Game Fuel is still legally available. And my social life is a scoreboard in matchmaking. Halo 3 gets marketed as the end of the trilogy. Finish the fight. The posters were everywhere. TV spots that made you feel like you were watching a war memorial. Chief goes into cryo, says, "Wake me when you need me," and you're like, all right, that's the bow on it. That's the saga. We're done. And Bungie thought they were done too. Internally, they are cooked. They've been living Halo for years. Crunch, pressure, please hype this like it's the second coming levels of expectation. So in their heads, Halo 3 is the mic drop. Roll credits, fade to black, go build something new, weird, maybe smaller. Anything that is not Master Chief and green armor 24/7. But just because you feel done doesn't mean the contract thinks you're done. Behind the scenes, Bungie is working on this quiet little mission. Get out from underneath Microsoft. Not because they hate the Xbox or anything, but because they want control, creative independence, the freedom to make new IPs without having to ask, okay, but where's the Spartan though? So they negotiate. Lawyers get involved, which is always the part of any heroic saga that we skip over in all the movies. You've got these absolute wizards who just gave us one of the most culturally important shooters of all time. And now, they're stuck in meetings where people say things like deliverables and milestones and franchise stewardship without dying inside. And out of that mess comes a deal that, if you are a Halo fan, you can basically feel echoing in every subsequent game that came after. Bungie gets to leave. Microsoft keeps Halo. But before Bungie walks out the door, they have to deliver 2 more Halo games. 2 bonus Halo games. Okay, picture this in normal human terms. You graduate high school, you walk the stage, awkwardly shake the principal's hand, try not to trip on your own 2 feet. Your family cheers, you're like, fuck yeah, we did it, I am free. You get home, flop on your couch with a snack, boot up the old Xbox, obviously, and then the school calls and goes, hey champ, so funny story, we actually need you to come back and do 2 more finals and also a group project with the 3 kids who never showed up to class. That cool with you, big dog? That's Bungie. They finished the trilogy, and the universe says, great work. By the way, we need ODST and Reach before you're allowed to go reinvent yourself. And honestly, that little clause that, oh, by the way, is a scar Halo still carries to this day. Because on one hand, we get 2 of the most interesting games in the franchise. And on the other hand, Bungie's already halfway out the door emotionally. They're thinking about new worlds, new lore, weird space wizards, and loot caves. And after those 2 games, Halo gets handed to a whole new studio that has to go, great, now we have to follow that? Now layer onto that this absolute fever dream. While Bungie is navigating all that contract stuff, Joseph Staten, the guy whose brain is basically a living Halo encyclopedia, is flying back and forth to New Zealand to work on, that's right, the Halo movie. And not just any Halo movie. This isn't some random direct-to-DVD thing. We're talking Peter Jackson attached as producer, Neill Blomkamp directing, Weta Workshop building props and armor, Staten in the room helping shape the whole story. This was a real, honest to God, we might actually pull this shit off phase for Halo on the big screen. You had the Lord of the Rings team, the guy who would go on to make District 9, and the dude who literally wrote the Halo Bible, all in the same creative soup. That, my friends, is Dream Team territory. That is just give them a goddamn blank check and lots of coffee energy. And because Hollywood is allergic to anything nice, it fucking implodes. Studio politics, budget paranoia, 2 studios butting heads over who gets what slice of the pie. Too expensive, too risky, too many people with opinions who have never once in their goddamn life teabagged someone on lockout. So the Halo movie dies in glorious, stupid, classic Hollywood fashion. And for me, this hits extra hard because if you remember the Landfall shorts they dropped around Halo 3, you know, I talked about this in the Halo 3 episode, but it is worth repeating. Landfall was not just a commercial. It was a mini-movie. It follows these ODSTs in the middle of a ground war. Warthogs getting wrecked, Marines panicking, everything going sideways. And it builds and builds and builds, and then finally, Master Chief drops in like a myth. It flows directly into the feeling of Halo 3's campaign, and it makes the war feel real. Like I could smell the burned metal. Real. And if you remember what I said in that Halo 3 episode, it still pisses me off in the best, most passionate fan way that we never got a full film in that style. Not a weird reinterpretation, not a what if Chief did prestige TV drama bullshit. I'm talking Blomkamp plus Weta, 2 hours, boots in the mud, shields popping, Banshee screaming over your head. Instead, the studios flinched, pulled the plug, packed up all the props. What we got out of that collapse was District 9, which is an absolute fantastic movie, no questions asked. But you can feel the ghost of Halo in it. The gritty future tech, the way humans and aliens share space in these industrial, grimy environments. It's like someone took the Halo movie's mood board, scratched out UNSC and Covenant, and wrote in MNU and prawns instead. So, real quick recap. Bungie thought Halo 3 was the finale. The contract says 2 more games. Joseph Staten's movie ambitions just got Thanos snapped out of the universe. All that creative energy has to go somewhere. So back at the studio, they start cooking up something small. A side project. A shorter experience built on the Halo 3 engine. In 2008, they announce it as Halo 3 Recon. And the idea is, hey, while we finish all this contract stuff and figure out our future, here's a little bonus slice of Halo. Smaller, cheaper, simpler. But, Bungie doesn't really do small now, do they? This is the Bungie pattern. We'll just add a few features. Invents Xbox Live addiction. We'll just do a trilogy. Births a cultural phenomenon. We'll just make a side story. Oops, we accidentally made ODST. Recon starts as this modest idea. Shorter, more focused, reuse assets, keep the scope tight. But as they start playing with the concept, what if you're an ODST Helljumper instead of Chief? What if the city's at night? What if we structure the campaign almost like a mystery? The thing grows and grows. Levels get more ambitious. Story ideas mature. Somebody says jazz music in a meeting, and it's all downhill from there. And at some point, they look up and realize we are not making a little expansion. We are making a whole game. Microsoft sees that, looks at the spreadsheets, and you can almost hear the cash register sound effect. Full price, retail box, $60. And somewhere in marketing, someone goes, also, Recon is kind of vague. We can do much better on that name. Because you see, Recon could be anything. Call of Duty perk, Tom Clancy paperback novel, your friend's Xbox gamer tag in 2004. It does not tell you who you are in this story. So they sharpen it to Halo 3 ODST, Orbital Drop Shock Troopers. Suddenly, the fantasy is crystal clear. You're not generic recon guy. You're one of the maniacs we saw in Halo 2. Those lunatics who ride metal coffins through the atmosphere, slam into war zones at terminal velocity, and call it a Tuesday. No Mjolnir armor, no Spartan 2 augmentations, just a specialized, very mortal soldier in a very, very bad situation. It's such a better name. You can feel the helmet hit your skull when you say it. And real quick for my younger listeners, my Game Pass babies, my digital-only legends, let me paint you a picture of what it was like in the disc era. You didn't buy a content update for $9.99. You didn't click install on a season pass. You put on real pants, drove your ass to a real store, probably with carpet that had seen some shit, and a guy behind the counter named Derek who'd spoil every fucking game he ever touched. You pick up a box that was like expansion pack in giant chrome letters. That's basically how Recon was pitched at first. This idea of a smaller add-on. But by the time it actually launched as ODST, nah. This was not a snack. This was a full meal with dessert and a beta code on the side. So you've got this weird in-between Halo. Born out of contract drama, a dead movie, and a small side project that got completely out of hand. But all of that is just the prelude. because none of it really lands until you crack that drop pod door and step out into the rain. Okay, the pod is open. You're breathing again. The world is dark, wet, bruised. So let's step into New Mombasa. ODST does not start loud. It doesn't start heroic. It doesn't even start with music. It starts with silence. That thick, urban silence that only hits after something catastrophic has happened. You climb out of your drop pod like your spine owes you money. Everything is a wreck. There's a crater where your LZ should have been. Your squad is gone, and your comms are fried. And you have no idea what time it is. This isn't Halo's usual Saturday morning cartoon energy. This is, where in the fuck am I, and why does the sky feel wrong kind of energy. Other Halo games give you levels. ODST gives you a place, a city that almost breathes, a city that mourns, a city that feels haunted, even though the ghosts are very much alive and armed with plasma pistols. New Mombasa at night is the closest Halo has ever come to a full-on noir film. Neon signs reflecting in puddles of rain, streetlights flickering in said rain, distant Covenant patrols echoing under overpasses. It's Halo by way of Blade Runner, but with more brutes and fewer replicants. And you see, every Halo before this made me sprint everywhere like a caffeinated jackrabbit. Halo 1 through 3 turned me into a parkour-addicted menace. But ODST? This game said walk, take your time, use your ears, look at the city. The pacing forces you to slow down and notice the things around you. Broken barriers, abandoned cars, a billboard flickering UNSC emergency notices, a crashed Phantom in the distance. You get this uneasy paranoia, like you are not supposed to be here. This is not your turf anymore, and you are most definitely not the Master Chief barreling through like a legend. You are just some guy in a helmet trying not to die in the rain. And then the magic trick happens. You find your first beacon. That helmet stabbed into the concrete. When the visor scans it and the screen flashes, you're suddenly back in time. You're not the rookie anymore. You're one of your squad mates. You're seeing the missing hours. You're feeling the adrenaline and panic in ways the rookie never will. Then you're kicked back to the present, alone again. Rain pounding, the city humming. It's a rhythm. Quiet, flashback, chaos, silence, repeat. ODST paces like a heartbeat, and every beat pushes you deeper into the mystery. And let's talk visor mode real quick, because this feature is one of the cleanest tone setters Bungie ever made. You hit the button and suddenly the city goes from dark realism to glowing line art. Enemies become red silhouettes. Allies glow green. Key objects highlight like neon graffiti. Rain streaks look like chalk on glass. It's not just night vision. It's a whole vibe. It turns the game into a comic book you're living inside of. It's Halo through the lens of a graphic novel. Gritty, sketchy, and utterly beautiful. And I'm just gonna say it. I would absolutely buy a hardcover graphic novel printed entirely in visor mode, frame it, hang it, live, laugh, visor. Okay, now buckle up, because now this is where Bungie went full literature major. ODST is structured like Dante's Inferno, whether they intended it consciously or not. Are you ready for this? 1. The Dark Wood. Dante opens the Inferno with, "In the middle of the journey of our life, I came to myself in a dark wood. for the straight way was lost. That's the rookie. He wakes up dazed. Dark city, no straight path forward. No squad, no plan, just wandering in fear. 2. The guide, Virgil. And who guides Dante? Virgil, a Roman poet who leads him through hell. Who guides the rookie? Virgil, the superintendent AI. Virgil opens doors, lights paths, highlights clues, shepherds you through the underworld of New Mombasa. That name is not an accident. Bungie left that breadcrumb on purpose. 3. The circles of hell equal the flashbacks. Each beacon, each and every flashback is another descent deeper into the chaos. Dante meets murderers, tyrants, traitors. You meet brutes, jackals, hunters. Dante sees souls tormented by the sins of their lives. You see your squad fighting through the consequences of their own choices. Different centuries, same dramatic structure. 4. Sadie's story equals the morality play. And the hidden audio logs that you find scattered throughout New Mombasa, Sadie's story. Dude, that's Dante's conversational encounters, the sinners he speaks with, people whose stories illuminate the themes of the world. Her story is one of corruption, bureaucracy weaponized, survival, grief, betrayal. The civilians in Dante's world are punished souls. The civilians in Sadie's story are crushed under the weight of a system that failed them long before the Covenant ever invaded. 5. Emerging to see the stars. Dante ends the Inferno with, "We emerge to see once more the stars." And ODST ends at sunrise. You've survived the darkest night of the war. You've found your people. You've faced the underworld and made it out alive. That is intentional. That is myth-making by way of neon and rain and jazz. And one of the coolest things about Halo 3 ODST is how it mirrors the mainline Halo 3. Halo 3 is an ascent. Chief rises. He climbs the arc. He saves everything. Bombastic choir hits, big operatic notes. But ODST is a descent. The rookie falls. He wakes in the mud. He digs through shadows, loss, and fear. Jazz instead of choirs. Rain instead of triumph. Uncertainty instead of destiny. The two games are opposite sides of the exact same war. One is the legend, and the other is the reality. And I'll never forget the first time I booted up Halo 3 ODST. It was late because, of course, I got it at a midnight launch. Everyone in the house was asleep. My room was dark except for the TV glow. And something about this game hit me in a way that the 3 previous games never had before. And it wasn't because it was scary, though the tension could almost make it a little freaky. And not because it was sad, though it absolutely can be. What it was for the first time, Halo truly felt lonely. And not in a bad way. In a holy shit, I've never been just a soldier in this world before kind of way. So that's the descent, the mood, the structure, the poetry, the rain-soaked heartbeat of the game. You are the rookie. You are Dante. You are alone in a city of ghosts, and your only guide is an AI named Virgil who speaks in door locks and traffic signs. That's where ODST sinks its hooks in. That's why it feels different, and that's why it matters. And the wild part is, you're not even really alone. Out there in that same storm scattered across the city are the people you dropped with. The ones whose helmets you're finding, whose firefights you're reliving, whose bad jokes are still echoing in your comms. So let's talk about them. Because ODST may be a noir mystery, It may be a descent into the underworld, but at its core, it is a character story. A story about a squad. A story about human beings, not Spartans, not icons, fighting a war they did not ask for. So let's start with the obvious. ODST is the first Halo game to star an ensemble cast. Not a demigod, not a silent legend, not the walking war crime in green armor that we all lovingly call the Chief. This is about people. First up, you've got Gunnery Sergeant Edward Buck, played by Nathan Fillion, who slides into this role like he's been waiting his entire career to put on ODST armor. Buck is your anchor, your grounding presence. He's the guy who makes the absolute worst situations feel survivable simply by being in the room. You know how some people panic when things go sideways? Buck is the exact opposite. He treats everything like a minor inconvenience. Banshee attack? Wednesday. Squad scattered across a burning city? I've seen worse. Alien apocalypse? Well, I could use a nap, honestly. He's not fearless. He's experienced, and that distinction matters. Buck gives ODST its heart. He is the bond that holds the squad together even when they're physically apart. Then there's Veronica Dare, played by Trisha Helfer. She's ONI, or the Office of Naval Intelligence, meaning she's the person you see walk into a room and immediately go, "Oh no, something classified is about to ruin my entire month." Dare brings the plot. She's the reason you drop into this nightmare. She's the reason the squad is scattered, and she's the one with the secret mission that the rookie slowly uncovers through those flashbacks. Dare's presence brings this sleek, sharp espionage energy to ODST. She's the femme fatale of the Noir, but she's also the most mission-focused, morally complicated person in the whole cast. And without spoiling anything for all you newcomers, let's just say the rookie gets very, very motivated to find her by the end of the campaign. Next up, Corporal Romeo, voiced by Nolan North during the era when Nolan North was contractually obligated to voice every character in every fucking video game ever made. Romeo is the sniper, the mouth of the squad, the guy who will absolutely roast you while covering you from a distance. He's sarcastic, sharp, and surprisingly vulnerable once the cracks start showing. Every squad needs that one guy who talks like he's invincible until he very much isn't. That's Romeo. Then there's Dutch, played by Adam Baldwin. He brings the muscle, the demolitions expert, the man who talks like he's been through 3 Covenant wars and learned exactly 0 coping mechanisms along the way. He's stoic, loyal, and built like an armored refrigerator. He doesn't get the most lines, but everyone he has hits. And Dutch plus Mickey's mission, the highway escape, is peak ODST energy. Hopelessness plus chaos plus gallows humor. And then there's Mickey, played by Alan Tudyk. God bless this man. Mickey is the squad's pilot, engineer, and resident wide-eyed optimist who probably keeps a stress journal somewhere in his armor. He panics in a charming way. He cracks jokes when things are bleak. He brings levity to a game that desperately needs it. And for the record, Mickey's early "I got a bad feeling about this" is the most accurate line in the entire game. So why does this ensemble hit harder than most Halo casts? Simple. They're not symbols. They're not monoliths. They're not Spartans. They're just dudes. Flawed, funny, scared, and trying their best. Halo has always been about the myth, about the legend of the Master Chief, the unstoppable Spartan, the savior of humanity. ODST flips that script. Here, the myth is happening somewhere off screen. You're seeing the war from the alleys, from the rooftops, from the broken highways. This is Halo's war as experienced by the people who make the myth possible. Now let's get to the hidden gem. I'd mentioned it earlier, but let's talk about Sadie's story. 40 audio logs scattered through New Mombasa, illustrated by Ashley Wood, and performed by a full voice cast. This thing is basically Halo's first prestige audio drama, Halo's first secret podcast, if you will, and Halo's first lore collectible that actually feels like an independent story. Sadie Indesha is not a soldier. She's not an Oni agent. She's a civilian trying to escape a city that is collapsing around her. And through her eyes, we see corrupt leadership, bureaucratic negligence, the cruelty of people in power, what a Covenant invasion does to actual civilians, and moments of bravery that never get memorialized. Her story is a mirror to the rookie's journey, where he walks through the city's physical scars, Sadie walks through its moral ones. And the illustrations by Ashley Wood, come on, man, chef's kiss. They're sketchy, distorted, and utterly haunting. They fit the tone of ODST better than any photorealistic cutscene ever could. It almost feels like someone scribbled humanity's last moments in a tattered sketchbook. And Sadie's story changed how I played ODST. I wasn't sprinting from objective to objective anymore. I was exploring the city like I was walking through someone's memories. I binged those logs like a season of True Detective. It was my first taste of Halo that was not about firepower or destiny, but just about people. And here's the thesis of ODST as a whole. Halo is normally a story about myth, right? About what humanity believes in, and about its iconic savior. But ODST? ODST is about the people who do not get songs written about them. The ones who fight and get lost in the margins. They're not gods. They're not Spartans. Just men. Humans. They're you. And that's why this game hits. And that's why it endures. Because for once, Halo drops the myth making and shows you the reality of war. So that's the squad, and the heart of this entire story. That's the beating pulse underneath all the rain, neon, and noir. ODST is Halo at the human scale, a character piece about a handful of soldiers in a city that's tearing itself apart, a snapshot of war from the ground up. And that humanity, that focus on the people instead of just the big green myth, it doesn't stop at the cutscenes. It leaks into the way you play, the modes you sink hours into, the music that gets stuck in your head years and years later. So let's talk about the part of ODST that turned late nights into full-blown marathons. Let's talk about Firefight. Firefight was Halo's PvE horde mode before horde modes were fucking everywhere. It is pure chaos distilled into map form. 4 players, endless Covenant waves, skulls activating like they're being thrown by an angry dungeon master, limited lives, maps plucked straight out of the campaign encounters. This is the mode where your friendships were tested, where you learned who panics under pressure, who hoards ammo, and who is physically incapable of calling out a brute chieftain until he's already clubbed you into low Earth orbit. And do you remember the feeling? You're down to your last life, your last magazine, your vision is red, your controller battery is flashing low, and your friend is screaming in your headset. Bro, he's right behind me! Where are the fusion coils? Oh God! Firefight wasn't just fun. It was cinematic. It made you feel like an ODST in a last stand. It took Halo's artificial intelligence, some of the smartest in the business, and let them loose on you without restraint. And the wildest part? There was no matchmaking. None. Zero. Nada. In 2009, if you wanted to play Firefight with people online, you needed actual friends. Like, real friends. People in your contact list who were awake at the same time and not grounded by their parents. Bungie later admitted they regretted this. They had built the perfect mode and then locked it behind just invite somebody. Thankfully, in the Master Chief Collection, Firefight finally got proper matchmaking. And guys, it fucking slaps. It is glorious. It is ODST the way it always should have been. And now, let's talk about the soul of this game. The thing that elevates ODST from cool side project to holy fuck, is this art? I'm talking the soundtrack, of course. Marty O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore cooked something special here. They stripped away the Gregorian choirs, the pounding war drums, the operatic themes, and what did we get instead? Jazz. Actual, honest-to-goodness noir jazz. And this was a bold move. Halo has one of the most iconic sounds in gaming. You hear that choir and you know it's fucking business time. And ODST said, nah, we're gonna go moody, intimate, lonely. Brushed cymbals, sax riffs that drift like cigarette smoke, piano notes echoing like they're afraid of the dark. And let's talk about Neon Night. If you've played ODST, this song is in your blood. That soft piano, that drifting saxophone, that quiet, pulsing beat underneath. It doesn't make you feel like a hero. It makes you feel lost, but searching, scared, but steady, alone, but ready to keep moving forward. It's the soundtrack of a soul wandering a wounded city. And people think ODST feels unique because you're not a Spartan. But that's only half true. The real secret sauce is that soundtrack. You see, music changes everything. Jazz turns a shooter into a noir. It turns firefights into morality plays. It turns walking through empty alleys into quiet character moments. This score is the reason ODST has vibes all its own. It's the reason people remember it as a mood, not just a game. Alright, now let's address the angry elephant in the room. The price tag. People were pissed in 2009. It's just an expansion. Why is this shit full priced? I finished it in a whole weekend. But here's what ODST actually shipped with. A full 7 to 8 hour campaign. Firefight, one of the best co-op modes Halo ever saw. A second disc with all of Halo 3's multiplayer. Every single map. A Halo Reach beta voucher. And a completely new tone and storytelling style. This was not DLC. This wasn't a tiny project by any means. This was Halo 3.5. And the numbers back it up. 2.5 million copies in just 2 weeks. 3 million by November. It was the #1 selling game of September. And over $100 million earned. People voted with their wallets. And the verdict was, yeah, dude, this fucking slaps. And here's where ODST hurts. Here's where the nostalgia lands like a punch to the abdomen. ODST proved Halo could be more than a power fantasy, more than just the Master Chief, more than destiny and prophecy and choral arrangements that sound like you're about to punch an alien pope right in the kisser. It proved Halo could be intimate, human, small scale. A story about shadows instead of suns. A story about people instead of symbols. And then we never got another one. No ODST 2. No UNSC Stories from the Front Lines. No anthology games about the Marines, civilians, ONI agents, or other ODST squads. Once 343 Industries took over, Halo narrowed. It went back to focusing on just the Spartans, back to armor abilities, back to bigger, louder, more. They experimented, yes, sometimes a bit too goddamn much, sometimes not enough, but they never returned to this smaller, grounded scale ODST nailed so perfectly. And tell me why. Why, in the name of all things holy in the universe, we have never gotten ODST 2? Nathan Fillion was right there. Alan Tudyk was right there. Nolan North would have phoned in his lines between 3 Uncharted cutscenes. When you really think about it, we could have had ODST, Mombasa Nights, ODST, Buck's Bad Day, Halo ODST, The Dare Heist, ODST, Tokyo Drift. Don't fucking at me. We all know that would have been cool as fuck. I would have bought a legendary edition with a tiny saxophone in the goddamn box. So yeah, ODST stands alone. A one-of-one Halo experience that hit harder than it had any right to. And not because of spectacle, not because of scale, but because it dared to just slow down. It dared to be human, to tell a story about fear, doubt, grief, and connection. It dared to show us Halo from the ground up, rain-soaked, bruised, and absolutely beautiful. And maybe that's why it still matters. Because when you strip away the armor, the choir, the legend, you find the thing that makes Halo worth caring about in the first place. Hope in the dark, a light in the rain, a rookie walking alone, and choosing to keep going anyway. And that is Halo 3 ODST. A love letter to the soldiers who don't get the statues. A noir story tucked inside a blockbuster franchise. A game that dared to whisper when everyone else was shouting. Thank you for walking the streets of New Mombasa with me today. Thanks for sitting in the rain, listening to the saxophone, following those beacons, and remembering why this game hit so fucking hard. To my player 2, you're the reason I'm even able to sit here rambling about Space Marines lost in the rain. Thank you for cheering me on, for believing in this show, and for not laughing too damn hard when I insist ODST is literature. Shout out to Cap. You may have missed out on the whole Halo glory days, but dude, you would have fit right in. Trash talking, hogging the sniper, and yelling, "Behind you!" 2 seconds too damn late. Thanks for being here since day one. To my brother Ian, thanks for keeping me grounded when the static gets too damn loud. You have always been the quiet foundation behind this whole thing. And shout out to Noah, legendary street team member of the Average Joe Nerdcast, and crazy lasso player. Get out there and be somebody, buddy. And of course, to Pickle, the only man I know who could survive a firefight round armed with nothing but pure optimism and a half-eaten gas station taquito. Never change, big dog. And to Ripley, the patron saint of the Nerdcast, the goodest girl, The one who guards every late-night recording session with a tail thump and a look that says, "Hey, you're doing good, Dad. I miss you, sweet girl. This one's for you." And to you, to everyone listening, whether you've been here since episode 1 or you just stumbled into the lobby, thank you. Thank you for supporting the show, sharing the posts, sending stories, arguing lovingly about which Halo is the best, and making this community feel like a squad of our own. Every message, every download, every share, it means more to me than you know. The lobby is always open, and you've always got a seat here. All right, everybody, that's it. Grab a soda, hug your squad, and remember, stay gold, nerd bold, and watch those rooftops. There is always a jackal up there. I'll see you on the next drop.
Game over.